Picture this. You're cruising down a lonely highway, the world outside your windshield calm, familiar. The radio's playing that one song you can't stop humming. Then, BM. The music cuts to static. Your car shakes like it's caught in an earthquake. Trees bend like they're reaching for you. And before you can process it, you're surrounded, cops in gas masks, a stench like chemicals burning your lungs, and something, not human, moving in the shadows. This isn't Hollywood. This is the story of Interstate 64, West Virginia, April 2013, according to one anonymous Reddit post that's haunted me ever since I read it. Welcome to your channel name, where we unravel the internet's deepest, darkest mysteries. Today, we're diving into a tale that blends horror, conspiracy, and questions no one dares answer. Is it a chilling true story? A government cover-up? Or just a writer's nightmare brought to life? Grab a drink, hit subscribe, and let's find out together. This one's gonna keep you up all night. It's a corner of the internet where every story is treated as true, no matter how wild. In 2023, a user dropped a bombshell called, "Stay in your car," claiming they'd been silenced for a decade by a non-disclosure agreement. Now, free to speak, they hid behind anonymity, terrified of consequences. Why? Because what they saw wasn't just scary, it was beyond explanation. I've spent years digging through creepy stories, from haunted houses to alien abductions, but this one hit different. Its details are so vivid, its emotions so raw, it feels like it could have happened. Or maybe it did. My goal today isn't just to retell this story, it's to dissect it, connect it to real-world fears, and figure out what it's really saying about us, our world, and the things we're told to ignore. Let's dive in. Our narrator, we'll call them Jamie, is driving home on I-64 near Lewisburg, West Virginia. It's a warm April evening, the kind where you roll the windows down and let the breeze carry your worries away. Jamie's coming back from visiting a friend in the hospital, their mind on autopilot. The radio's playing a classic rock tune when it glitches, spitting static. Then, the world turns upside down. The ground rumbles like a freight train's barreling through. Trees sway, though there's no wind. Cars ahead screech to a halt, some crashing into each other. Dust chokes the air. Jamie slams their windows shut, pulse racing. A robotic voice cuts through the radio. Geological disturbance. Turn off air conditioning. Reduce speed. Proceed to the nearest exit. It loops, emotionless, mechanical. Let's pause here. This opening is pure chaos, and it's brilliant. Why? Because it taps into a fear we all know, losing control in a place that's supposed to be safe. Driving's routine, right? You trust the road, the rules, the system. But when that system breaks, when the ground itself betrays you, it's primal. I grew up in a small town with winding roads, and once, during a storm, a tree fell inches from my car. That split-second terror? That's what Jamie's feeling, times 1,000. But the geological disturbance part bugs me. West Virginia's got a history of environmental disasters. Think coal mine collapses, like the 2010 Upper Big Branch disaster that killed 29 miners. A methane leak or seismic tremor isn't impossible. But that radio message? It's too precise, too calm. It feels like someone, or something, knew this was coming. My gut says this could be fiction inspired by real fears, like government experiments or industrial accidents swept under the rug. Or maybe it's more. Let's keep going. Why does this moment feel so real? It's the details. The way Jamie describes the dust, the way the trees move without wind, it's sensory overload, like you're there. I've read a ton of horror, and the best stories make you feel trapped in the character's head. This does that. Plus, West Virginia's a place where weird things happen. It's got those dense forests, those quiet towns where secrets feel like they could hide forever. Ever driven through a place like that? Where the air feels heavy? That's the vibe here. And that radio message, it's not just creepy, it's clinical. Like it was pre-recorded for this exact moment. I can't help but think of real-world cover-ups, like the 1980s Love Canal disaster, where a town was poisoned by toxic waste, and the government dragged its feet. Could this be a nod to something like that? A spill, a test, something they didn't want us to know? Or is it just a writer knowing exactly how to make our skin crawl? Either way, Jamie's about to learn this is only the beginning. Just when Jamie thinks the chaos on I-64 can't get worse, it does. Out of nowhere, police swarm the highway. Not your small-town deputies, but figures straight out of a dystopian movie. They're decked out in hazmat suits, gas masks hiding their faces, rifles slung across their chests like they're ready for war. They wave cars into a makeshift parking lot, so tight Jamie's vehicle is wedged in, doors barely able to crack open. Over megaphones, they bark orders. Stay in your vehicle. Windows up. Engines off. Jamie checks their phone. Dead. No signal, no text, no way to call for help. The radio's still looping that creepy robotic warning. Geological disturbance. Turn off air conditioning. Reduce speed. People around start losing it. Some bang on their windows, shouting for answers. One guy, either brave or reckless, steps out of his car, yelling at a cop for an explanation. A warning shot splits the air, bang, and the cops scream. Stay in your car. Then, Jamie notices it, a sharp, stinging smell, like bleach mixed with gasoline, creeping through the car's vents. This moment is where the story grabs you and doesn't let go. It's not just the police. It's the total stripping away of freedom. No movement, no communication, no answers, just orders. I've been in situations where I felt powerless, like when I was a kid and got stuck in a school lockdown drill that felt too real. The silence, the waiting, the not knowing, it's suffocating. Multiply that by 100, and you've got what Jamie's going through. This scene feels like a pressure cooker, and it's designed to make you feel trapped right alongside them. But let's talk about those cops. Hazmat suits? Rifles? Warning shots? That's not a response to a fender bender or a gas leak. That's military-level control. It makes me think of real-world incidents where authorities clamp down hard to keep things quiet. Ever heard of the 1976 Seveso disaster in Italy? A chemical plant leaked dioxin, poisoning a whole town, and officials locked down the area, telling people to stay inside without explaining why. Families were trapped, breathing toxic air, while the government played it cool. Sound familiar? This part of Jamie's story screams cover-up, and it's got me asking, what were they hiding? Let's break this down. The hazmat suits and signal jamming aren't random, they're deliberate. Blocking cell signals? That's not something you do for a minor accident. It's what you do when you don't want anyone talking, filming, or posting. Think about it. In 2013, we were just starting to grapple with government surveillance, thanks to Edward Snowden's leaks. People were already paranoid about being watched, controlled, silenced. This story, whether it's true or not, taps into that fear like a laser. The chemical smell adds another layer. Bleach and gasoline? That's not a natural gas leak. That's something industrial, maybe even experimental. My mind goes to classified projects, like DARPA's crazy experiments with robotics or chemical weapons. What if this was a test gone wrong, and they needed to contain it at all costs? Or maybe it's fiction, and the author's just a genius at making us feel like we're one step away from the truth. Either way, the way the cops act, militarized, unyielding, feels too real. I've seen footage of disaster zones where authorities prioritize order over people, and it's chilling how close this feels to that. To make this hit home, let me share something personal. A few years ago, I was at a protest, not a big one, just a local thing about environmental regulations. The police showed up, not in riot gear, but with that same vibe, don't ask questions, just do what we say. They blocked off streets, checked IDs, and shut down any attempt to record what was happening. It wasn't violent, but it was intimidating. You felt small, like your voice didn't matter. That's what Jamie's feeling, but on steroids, trapped in a car, surrounded by armed figures who won't explain why. It's that sinking realization that the system isn't here to help you, it's here to control you. Stories like this resonate because we've all felt that at some point, Whether it's a bureaucracy ignoring you or a situation where you're told to just comply. Jamie's not just fighting fear, they're fighting powerlessness, and that's something we can all relate to. Let's ground this in reality. In April 2013, the same year as Jamie's story, a fertilizer plant in West Texas exploded, killing 15 people and injuring over 160. The blast was so powerful it registered as a small earthquake. Residents described a chemical smell, chaos, and authorities rushing in to cordon off the area. The official response was messy, conflicting reports, delayed information, and questions about why the plant's safety violations were ignored. While there were no monsters in Texas, the parallels are striking: a sudden disaster, a chemical threat, and a heavy-handed lockdown. The government later admitted to regulatory failures, but at the time, locals felt kept in the dark. If Jamie's story is fiction, it could be riffing on events like this, weaving real-world distrust into a horror framework. If it's real, it might be a piece of a bigger puzzle, incidents we'll never fully know about because someone, somewhere, decided we shouldn't. What do you think? Is this just a story, or is there something more? The chaos on I-64 has settled into something worse, a suffocating stalemate. Hours drag by, and the cramped parking lot feels like a prison. Jamie's stuck in their car, surrounded by other drivers, all trapped under the watchful eyes of those hazmat-suited cops. The air is thick with tension, and that chemical smell, like bleach and gasoline, is getting stronger, stinging Jamie's eyes. The cops climb onto car hoods, their boots denting metal, tossing out meager supplies, bottles of water, packets of crackers, even some cheese slices that look like they've seen better days. Then, they hand out black plastic bags for sanitation. Jamie's humiliated, the indignity of it all sinking in. They try to nap, but the car feels like it's shrinking, the walls closing in. Outside, two college kids in a nearby car whisper frantically, speculating about flammable chemicals coating the vehicles. Another driver, desperate for connection, holds up a notebook with a single word scrawled in marker. Aliens? It's meant as a joke, but no one laughs. The fear is too real. This section hits like a punch to the gut. It's not about action anymore, it's about the slow, grinding torture of waiting, of being stripped of control. I've felt something like this before, stuck in a broken-down bus during a heatwave, no AC, no bathroom, just sweat and frustration. But Jamie's situation is that times 1,000, with real danger lurking. The story's genius here is how it makes you feel every second of that claustrophobia. Psychologically, this is brutal. Studies on confinement, like in submarines or disaster zones, show it can trigger panic, paranoia, even hallucinations. Your brain starts turning shadows into threats, every creak into a monster. Those college kids' theories about chemicals? That's their minds grasping for logic in chaos. The aliens' sign? It's absurd, but it shows how fear makes you cling to any explanation, no matter how wild. This part's not just about being stuck, it's about what that does to your head, and it's terrifyingly relatable. Let's talk about why this moment lands so hard. It's the human details. The black plastic bags, the dented hoods, the way Jamie describes feeling, buried alive, in their car, it's visceral. Good horror doesn't just scare you. It makes you feel vulnerable, and this does that in spades. I've read about real-life scenarios where people were trapped like this, and the psychological toll is no joke. Take POW camps or even modern solitary confinement. People start to unravel when they're caged with no end in sight. Jamie's not just fighting boredom, they're fighting their own mind. And that chemical smell? It's not just a plot point, it's a constant reminder that something's wrong, something they can't see or fight. My theory: if this is fiction, the author's pulling from real fears of environmental disasters, like toxic spills or industrial accidents. West Virginia's no stranger to those. Think of the 2014 Elk River chemical spill, where 300,000 people lost clean water, and the government's response was a mess. But the way this is written, with that eerie specificity, makes me wonder, could this be more than a story? Could someone have lived this? To bring this closer to home, let me share something. A while back, I got stuck in an elevator for over an hour. It was just me, a flickering light, and this oppressive silence. I started imagining the worst. Would the cables snap? Was I running out of air? It sounds silly now, but in that moment, my brain was inventing nightmares. That's what Jamie's going through, except they're not alone, and the threat's not imaginary. The other drivers, the cops, the chemical smell, it's all amplifying their fear, turning every second into a battle to stay sane. We've all had moments where time slows down, where you're trapped in your own head, and that's why this part of the story feels so universal. It's not about monsters yet, it's about the monster inside you, the one that whispers, "You're not getting out of this." Jamie's holding it together, but barely, and I can't help but root for them to make it through. Let's ground this in something real. The 1995 Tokyo subway sarin attack. A cult called Aum Shinrikyo released nerve gas and packed subway trains during rush hour, killing 13 people and injuring thousands. Survivors described a sharp chemical smell, burning eyes, and pure chaos as people collapsed or fled. Emergency responders in hazmat suits rushed in, but the government was slow to admit what was happening, leaving commuters trapped in confusion and fear. Sound familiar? Like Jamie's story, it was about ordinary people caught in a toxic nightmare, with authorities prioritizing control over clarity. The Tokyo attack wasn't about creatures or conspiracies, but the raw terror of being trapped in a place you thought was safe. That's the same. If Jamie's tale is fiction, it's drawing from horrors like this, where normal life turns deadly in an instant. If it's real, it could be a chemical incident buried by someone powerful. Either way, it hits because we know these things happen, and we're never as safe as we think. Just when Jamie thinks the waiting can't get any worse, the situation on I-64 takes a darker turn. A truck rumbles into the parking lot, its headlights cutting through the dusk. It starts spraying the cars with a misty liquid that reeks of chlorine, the smell so sharp it burns Jamie's nose even through the closed windows. The cops, still in their eerie hazmat suits, shout through megaphones, "This is for decontamination. Keep your windows shut." Decontamination? From what? Before Jamie can process it, workers appear, dragging a massive black plastic tarp over the entire lot. It's like a giant shroud, plunging everyone into near-total darkness. The chemical smell becomes overwhelming, choking the air. Jamie feels like they're in a metal coffin, the tarp muffling every sound, except the faint whispers of terrified drivers and the occasional honk of desperation. The cops' megaphones echo again, their voices distorted. "Stay in your car. It's for your safety." But safety feels like the last thing this is about. This is where the story shifts from tense to outright suffocating. The tarp is a stroke of genius. It's not just a physical barrier, it's a symbol of being buried alive. I've never been in a situation this extreme, but I once got caught in a tent during a storm, the fabric flapping so loud I couldn't hear my thoughts. That sense of being trapped, cut off from the world? That's what Jamie's feeling, but amplified by the fear of something unknown. The decontamination part screams protocol, like something you'd see after a biohazard or nuclear accident. Think of the 1986 Chernobyl disaster, where workers hosed down vehicles to wash off radioactive dust. But why the tarp? To hide the cars from satellites? To contain a contagion? Or to keep people from seeing something they shouldn't? My gut says this is about containment, of a chemical leak, a virus, or maybe something even weirder. If this is fiction, it's playing on our fear of being pawns in someone else's game. If it's real, it's a glimpse into a world where truth is the first casualty. Let's dig into that tarp for a second, because it's more than just a plot device. It's a metaphor for control, for secrecy, for the way power can smother you. In literature, darkness often represents the unknown, and this tarp is darkness you can feel. It's like the government saying, "Don't look, don't ask, just trust us." I see parallels in real life. Think of the COVID lockdowns, when we were told to stay inside for our safety, but the lack of clear answers fueled paranoia. Or go further back to the 1970s, when the CIA's MKUltra program ran secret experiments on citizens, and anyone who spoke out was silenced or discredited. The tarp's purpose isn't just to block light, it's to block questions. And that chemical spray? It's not just cleaning cars, it's erasing evidence. If this story's made up, the author's a master at tapping into our distrust of institutions. If it's true, then whatever happened on I-64 was something someone wanted erased from history. To make this relatable, let me share a story. When I was a teenager, I went spelunking with friends in a local cave. We were amateurs, and at one point, our flashlights died, leaving us in pitch-black darkness. The air was heavy, the walls tight, and every sound, every drip, every shuffle, felt like a threat. I wasn't just scared, I was paralyzed, my mind conjuring monsters in the shadows. We found our way out, but that feeling of being trapped in the dark never left me. Jamie's under that tarp, surrounded by strangers, breathing poison, and hearing those cops' voices like a broken record. It's my cave nightmare, but with stakes I can't even imagine. We've all had moments where the world feels like it's closing in, where you're told to stay put and trust the system. This story takes that fear and cranks it to 11, making you question what safety really means. Let's connect this to reality. In 1988, a massive tire fire broke out in Hagersville, Ontario, burning for 17 days and releasing toxic smoke across the region. Authorities evacuated nearby residents, but information was spotty. People reported burning eyes, chemical smells, and confusion about what was safe. Firefighters sprayed chemicals to control the blaze, and officials restricted access, citing public safety. The government later admitted the response was chaotic, with long-term health impacts downplayed. Like Jamie's story, it involved a chemical threat, a controlled lockdown, and a lack of transparency. No tarps or monsters, but the same vibe, ordinary people caught in a crisis, told to obey without question. If Jamie's tale is fiction, it's pulling from events like this, where safety measures feel more like control. If it's real, it could be a classified incident we'll never find in history books. What do you think, storytelling, or a truth someone's hiding? Under the suffocating tarp on I-64, Jamie's world descends into pure horror. The air's thick with that chlorine stench, the darkness pressing in like a living thing. Then, strange noises cut through the silence, clicking, like wet tongues snapping, echoing from above. Heavy footsteps thud on car roofs, too heavy to be the cops, too erratic to be human. Glass shatters somewhere close, followed by a scream that's cut off mid-breath. Jamie, heart pounding, peers through a tiny gap in the tarp and sees things. They're tall, about 7 feet, with glossy black skin that glistens like oil. Their feet are clawed bird-like, but their mouths are a nightmare, jagged, shark-like teeth glinting in the dim light. One creature slams into Jamie's car, rocking it violently, its claws scraping the hood. Panicked, Jamie slides under their vehicle, dirt grinding into their skin, praying they're not seen. Another driver's not so lucky. They're yanked from their car, blood spraying across the asphalt. The 2 college kids from earlier hide nearby, one tossing a ringing phone to distract the creatures. It works, barely. The monsters tear apart another car instead, metal screeching like a dying animal. This is where the story becomes nightmare fuel. These creatures aren't just scary, they're a violation of everything we understand about the world. Their design, part bird, part shark, part alien, taps into something primal, like a fear wired into our DNA. I've had nightmares that felt less vivid than this. Biologically, they don't add up. 7-foot predators with that kind of speed and strength. Earth's ecosystems couldn't support them. But West Virginia's got a history of weird sightings, like the Mothman in the 1960s, a winged creature tied to tragedy. Could these be a fictional nod to that? Or maybe they're a metaphor, chaos breaking through the order of Jamie's world. My take, they're probably a literary device, a way to make Jamie's terror feel tangible. But the way they're described, so specific, so real, makes me wonder. What if Jamie saw something their brain turned into monsters to make sense of it? This is the story's peak, and it's absolutely chilling. Let's talk about why these creatures hit so hard. It's not just their look, it's what they represent. Humans have always feared the unknown, the thing just beyond the campfire's light. These creatures, with their impossible biology, are that fear given form. They're not zombies or werewolves. They're something else, something that doesn't belong. Horror studies call this the uncanny, things that are familiar but wrong, like a bird's claws on a human-like frame. It's why the xenomorph in Alien freaks us out. It's close to life, but not quite. This story uses that to perfection. And the setting, under that tarp, makes it worse. You're trapped, blind, with these things hunting you. It's like being a kid, hiding under the covers, convinced something's in the closet. Except here, it's real, or feels real. If this is fiction, the author's a master at exploiting our deepest fears. If it's true, then whatever Jamie saw was beyond anything we're ready to face. To make this personal, let me share something that still gives me chills. A few years ago, I was camping in a dense forest, far from any town. It was late, the fire was low, and I heard this sound. Not a howl or a growl, but a hum, like a machine but alive. Then footsteps, too heavy for a deer, too fast for a person. I froze in my tent, gripping my flashlight, waiting for something to burst through the nylon. Nothing did, but I didn't sleep that night. Was it my imagination? Probably. But that fear, that sense of being watched by something I couldn't name, that's what Jamie's living through, except their monsters are real, tearing through cars and people. We've all had moments where the world feels off, where the shadows seem to move. This story takes that feeling and makes it a living, breathing terror. Let's ground this in history. In 1966, West Virginia was a hotbed for UFO sightings. People reported glowing objects, strange figures, and even creatures like the Mothman, a winged, red-eyed being tied to a bridge collapse. One family in Salem, West Virginia, claimed a tall, humanoid figure with no face stood on their porch, watching them. The military swooped in, dismissing it as mass hysteria, but witnesses swore it was real. Like Jamie's creatures, these beings were alien, tied to a specific place and time, with authorities quick to shut it down. If Jamie's story is fiction, it's drinking from this well of local legend, mixing UFO lore with modern horror. If it's true, could it be a classified project, maybe testing tech or even life forms we're not supposed to know about? West Virginia's quiet forests are the perfect place to hide something like that. Fiction or not, the connection's too eerie to ignore. The nightmare on I-64 doesn't end with the creature's attack. It ends with something colder, more insidious. As suddenly as they appeared, the monsters vanish, their clicking noises fading into the darkness. The massive tarp is pulled back, and sunlight floods the parking lot, blinding Jamie after hours of gloom. But the scene it reveals is grim. Cars are mangled, some with claw marks gouged into metal, others with shattered windows. Bloodstains darken the asphalt. The cops, now in standard uniforms instead of hazmat suits, act like nothing happened. They move through the lot, handing out clipboards with non-disclosure agreements. Sign this, they say, and you'll get a payout. Refuse, and you're looking at detention. Jamie, still shaking from hiding under their car, signs the NDA, the pen heavy in their hand. The college kids from earlier do the same, their faces pale. The official story comes later. A gas leak caused accidents, killing 14 people. Some deaths are blamed on animal attacks, others on fugitive activity. 34 cars are towed, 18 people injured. Jamie's left haunted, the creatures clicking echoing in their dreams, the blood-soaked tarp burned into their memory. They post their story online, a desperate plea for closure, knowing they'll never fully escape that night. This ending is chilling, not because of monsters, but because of its cold, bureaucratic reality. The NDAs, the payouts, the vague official reports, they feel like something out of a conspiracy thriller, but they're scarily believable. I've read about real cover-ups, like the CIA's MKUltra program in the 20th century, where victims were experimented on, then silenced or discredited. The mixed death reports here, accidents, animals, fugitives, seem designed to confuse, a tactic straight out of misinformation playbooks. Psychologically, Jamie's trauma is raw and relatable. Survivors of disasters often describe PTSD that lingers for years, vivid memories that won't fade. Jamie's not just a character, They're a mirror for anyone who's felt silenced or powerless. My theory: if this is real, it was a botched experiment, maybe bioengineering or chemical testing, and the cover-up was to protect someone powerful. If it's fiction, it's a brilliant critique of how truth gets buried under paperwork and lies. Let's unpack this aftermath. The NDAs are the key. They're not just legal documents. They're weapons of silence. In real life, governments and corporations use them all the time. Think of whistleblowers like Edward Snowden, who exposed NSA surveillance and faced exile for it. Or workers at Area 51, who've claimed they signed NDAs to hide what they saw. The payouts Jamie mentions? That's classic hush money, a carrot to go with the stick of detention. The official story's vagueness is another red flag. By throwing out multiple causes, gas leaks, animals, fugitives, it muddies the water, making it hard to pin down the truth. I've seen this in real conspiracies, like the 1947 Roswell incident, where the military's shifting explanations fueled decades of speculation. If this story's made up, it's mimicking those tactics perfectly, playing on our distrust of authority. If it's true, it fits a pattern of suppressed events, where survivors are bought or bullied into silence. Either way, Jamie's pain, their need to speak out, feels like a rebellion against that control. To make this hit home, let me share something personal. When I was in college, I worked part-time at a factory. One day, there was a minor chemical spill, not deadly, but enough to make your eyes water. Management locked us in the break room, told us to stay put, and said it was under control. No phones, no questions, just wait. Later, they offered us extra pay to sign a form promising not to talk about it. I signed. Bills don't pay themselves, but it left a bad taste. That feeling of being controlled, of knowing something's wrong but being told to shut up. That's what Jamie's going through, except their stakes are life and death. We've all faced moments where authority demands silence, whether it's a boss, a school, or something bigger. Jamie's story takes that experience and wraps it in horror, making you question what else we're not allowed to say. Let's tie this to reality. In December 1980, U.S. Air Force personnel at RAF Woodbridge in the UK reported strange lights and a metallic object in Rendlesham Forest. Some claimed they saw humanoid figures. Others described burns from the lights. The military investigated, but witnesses were intimidated, forced to sign NDAs, and told to stay quiet. Declassified documents later confirmed unexplained activity, but the official story blamed a lighthouse. Like Jamie's tale, it's about ordinary people caught in something bizarre, silenced by authority, with conflicting explanations to bury the truth. If Jamie's story is fiction, it's tapping into this pattern of military cover-ups and suppressed anomalies. If it's real, it could be another Rendlesham, a moment where something extraordinary slipped through, only to be locked away. The parallels make you wonder, how many stories like this are out there, hidden behind signatures and threats? So, what's the I-64 incident really about? We've followed Jamie's terrifying journey, chaos on the highway, militarized lockdowns, creatures from a nightmare, and a chilling cover-up. But what does it all mean? Let's break it down through 3 lenses to see if we can crack this mystery. First, as horror fiction, this story is a masterclass in dread. The pacing is relentless, starting with subtle unease and building to pure terror under that tarp. The creatures are vague enough to haunt your imagination, their bird-shark hybrid design tapping into primal fears. The claustrophobic lockdown feels real, grounded in West Virginia's eerie folklore, like the Mothman legend. It's Stephen King meets the X-Files, crafted to keep you up at night. Second, as a conspiracy allegory, this is a story about power and control. The NDAs, signal jamming, and militarized cops mirror our fears of government overreach, especially after events like the 2013 Snowden leaks, which exposed mass surveillance. It's asking, what are they hiding, and what's the cost of our silence? Finally, as a psychological study, Jamie's fear, their sense of shrinking walls, reflects our own vulnerabilities. The creatures could be their trauma given form. Studies show confined spaces amplify anxiety, turning doubts into demons. This story exploits that brilliantly, making us feel Jamie's powerlessness. My take? It's likely fiction, a love letter to horror fans that uses real-world paranoia to hit harder. The details, the specific death toll, the NDAs, are so precise they make you pause, but they're probably just clever writing. Still, the emotional truth is universal. We've all felt trapped, silenced, or hunted, whether by a job, a system, or our own minds. This story resonates because it's not just about monsters, it's about us. But those specifics, like the 14 deaths and 34 towed cars, nag at me. Could someone have seen something they weren't meant to? Let's explore what this story is tapping into and why it feels so real. Horror's never just about scares, it's a mirror for our fears. Frankenstein warned about unchecked science. Godzilla was born from nuclear dread. The I-64 incident feels like a modern monster, born from our distrust of institutions. Since the 1960s, trust in governments has plummeted. Think Watergate, MKUltra, or the Patriot Act. We know they hide things, and stories like this give us a safe way to wrestle with that. The creatures aren't just random. They're chaos breaking through a system that's supposed to protect us. The TARP, the NDAs, the cops, they're symbols of a world where truth is controlled. I see this in pop culture too. Shows like Stranger Things or Black Mirror play on the same paranoia, secret experiments, hidden threats, ordinary people caught in the crossfire. If this story's fiction, it's part of that tradition, using horror to question power. If it's real, it's a warning we're not listening to. Either way, it's no accident it's set in West Virginia, a place steeped in mystery, from Mothman to UFO flaps. That setting makes the impossible feel possible. To bring this closer, let me share something. In high school, I had a teacher who ran our class like a dictatorship. Rules were strict, questions were shut down, and once, when I pushed back on an unfair grade, I was told to stop making trouble, or face detention. It wasn't a big deal in the grand scheme, but it stuck with me, that feeling of being silenced, of knowing something's wrong but being powerless to fix it. That's what Jamie's story channels, the frustration of being told to stay in your car, to obey without understanding why. We've all faced systems, schools, jobs, governments, that demand compliance over curiosity. This story takes that feeling and wraps it in a nightmare, making you wonder what else we're told to ignore. It's why I love diving into mysteries like this. They're not just stories. They're a way to ask questions we're not supposed to ask. Let's tie this to reality. In 1977, the small Brazilian island of Caldas was rocked by a wave of UFO sightings. Residents reported glowing objects beaming lights that burned their skin, and some claimed to see humanoid figures. The Brazilian military locked down the area, intimidating witnesses and restricting information. Declassified files later admitted unexplained phenomena, but the official story blamed mass panic and bad fish. Sound familiar? Like Jamie's tale, it's about ordinary people caught in something bizarre, silenced by force, with a flimsy cover story to bury the truth. The I-64 incident fits this pattern: strange events, military control, and a narrative designed to confuse. If it's fiction, it's drawing from cases like Caldas, channeling our fear of hidden truths. If it's real, it's another piece of a puzzle, events suppressed because they challenge what we're allowed to know. These parallels make the story feel like it's part of something bigger, something we're only scratching the surface of. Let's go out on a limb and entertain the wildest possibility. What if the I-64 incident actually happened? West Virginia's perfect for something like this: sparse population, endless forests, roads that feel like they lead nowhere. It's the kind of place you could hide a secret, and no one would know. Those creatures Jamie described, 7 feet tall, glossy black skin, bird-like claws, could they be real? Maybe bioengineered, part of a DARPA project gone rogue. The Pentagon's been tinkering with crazy stuff for years, from robotic dogs to gene editing tech. The chemicals smell and TARP scream containment, like they were dealing with a bioweapon or radiation leak. The NDAs and payouts? That's how governments handle leaks. Think Area 51 whistleblowers, paid or threatened to stay quiet. But the creature's behavior, hunting, killing, chaotic, feels too messy for a controlled test. If this was real, something broke free, and the cover-up was a desperate scramble to save face. The skeptic in me says it's too fantastical, like a sci-fi flick gone overboard. But the believer can't help but wonder, what's buried in those West Virginia woods? A file in some Pentagon vault, labeled I-64, or something we're not ready to understand? The thought alone gives me chills. Why do we even entertain ideas like this? It's not just about aliens or secret labs, it's about wanting answers. We live in a world where truth feels slippery. From government leaks to corporate scandals, we know things are hidden from us. Stories like the I-64 incident let us play detective, piecing together clues to feel in control. I see this in online communities like Reddit, where people dig into mysteries like this one, building theories from scraps of evidence. It's why true crime and conspiracy content are so popular. They tap into our need to make sense of chaos. If Jamie's story is fiction, it's a brilliant way to channel that curiosity, using horror to ask big questions. If it's true, it's a crack in the system, a glimpse of something we're not supposed to see. Either way, it's a reminder that the world's full of shadows, and sometimes, the scariest thing is not knowing what's in them. To make this personal, let me share a moment that changed how I see the world. A few years ago, I stumbled across an old newspaper article about a local UFO sighting from the 1980s. It was dismissed as a weather balloon, but the witness descriptions, lights, strange figures, military trucks showing up, felt too detailed to ignore. I spent weeks researching, digging through archives, even talking to a guy who claimed he saw it. I never found proof, but the chase taught me something. The truth matters, even if it's messy or incomplete. That's what Jamie's doing by posting their story, real or not. They're chasing closure, refusing to let silence win. We've all had moments where we sense something bigger, something hidden, whether it's a weird event or a gut feeling. This story takes that instinct and runs with it, daring us to keep asking questions, even when the answers scare us. Here's the lesson I've taken from the I-64 incident, and I hope you carry it with you. Fear is a trap, but curiosity is the key. Whether this was a real cover-up, a writer's nightmare, or something in between, it reminds us to question what we're told. When someone says, "Stay in your car," shut up, obey, don't look, don't just comply. Look around. Think. Share your story. Jamie's post, fictional or not, broke their silence, and that's power. Fear of monsters, confinement, or the unknown can paralyze, but stories like this show us how to fight back. Next time you're stuck, whether in traffic or in life, ask yourself, what's really going on? And maybe, just maybe, keep an eye on the shadows. Knowledge isn't just power, it's freedom. That's the I-64 incident, folks. One of the wildest mysteries I've ever tackled. What do you think? Government experiment? Alien invasion? Or just a killer Reddit post? Drop your theories in the comments. I read every single one. If this gave you chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more deep dives into the unknown. Check out our playlist on Internet Mysteries for more stories like this. Thanks for sticking with me through this journey. Stay curious, and maybe take the back roads next time you're in West Virginia. See you in the next one.